the breakup, whether you've caused it or not, is consequential to the part of your life that you shared with the person that you're separating from. The confusion of it all is, I guess underneath it all is, how did we end up here? How have I ended up where I am? How could something so good go so bad? How could something that was so wonderful end up so horrible? The answer to this, viewers, is we have a sinful nature. We can bring in personality disorders and personality disorder traits and all this other stuff, and that's fine, but the root of the problem is we have a carnal, sinful, evil nature that works against us, deceiving us into doing things that are not good for ourselves or the people that we're involved in, and vice versa. So you have two conflicting people, and even the Christians are struggling today because they're not aware of how religion can give power to and arouse and inspire and elicit and give credence to our sinful nature. When we think we can do things or not to do things to make God happy or stop him from being sad, that flicks the switch. Now we may not want to admit that, we might not want to acknowledge that, but it flicks the switch. We may not even be conscious of that. 9 times out of 10 we're not conscious of it, and that's how our evil nature deceives us. In a relationship manner, if we think there's things we can do or not do to make our partner happy or stop them from being sad, this also gives way to our sinful evil nature. Now it shouldn't, should it? You're trying to do the right thing and you're trying to be a good partner and impress, but it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work that way. There are standard basic relationship procedures and principles that we know we need to live by. But when we try to add to that, and I'm not saying doing something nice like buying flowers or not sleeping with the lady next door to keep the peace, I'm not talking about stuff like that. I'm talking about making yourself feel as though you have to do things or not do things to keep the relationship alive. And if you stop, the relationship will die. And in some cases, this is what happens. I had a marriage to a South African woman from Johannesburg. She had some mental health problems that I definitely wasn't aware of the depth of them. That's fine, I'm not making excuses, but she was medicated heavily from physical things and other things that just weren't resolved. And I had a serious accident as a result of her disorderly, covert, narcissistic or sinful behavior. We were going to meet up and in the morning for what? None of it happened. She did the opposite. That caused confusion. I went on a kiting session. I got taken up into the sky out of lack of concentration, trying to come to terms with how the arrangements broke down. Couldn't figure it out. But it was a case of covert narcissism. The woman just went in the opposite direction. Had no consideration for what impact that was going to have on my mind, how it was going to affect my day, how it affected my hand-eye coordination in sport. And this is where some of you people need to be careful. You may not be sport people. You may just be making a cup of tea and your mind drifts off trying to figure out, where is this abuse coming from? Why do I feel this void? Why am I struggling to think? Why is there a fog? And the next thing, you burn yourself, you spill the water all out, you trip in the bathroom. People have died from this covert, sinful, narcissistic disorderliness that these people bring to the relationship. They don't do it at first. They're squeaky clean at first, polished, on their game, playing their part, and then all of a sudden the behavior starts, the negligences start, and your mind begins to swim. Add demons to that. These people usually aren't aware of God the way that they should be, which gives rise to an access for demons to come into their minds. And now you have a familiar spirit working within that person alongside their carnal nature and covert narcissism to work against you in the relationship. Try and fight that battle. People die. The brain fog is so bad, people die. Or at least are very seriously maimed, as myself. I carry injuries now. I got a steel plate in my wrist and 6 screws or something in my ankle. I live in agony every day because of this woman who was supposed to be my wife, negligences. This is probably happening to you, or you've done it yourself. We're all guilty of things to some level or another. We don't need to live with the shame of it if we face ourselves, and I face myself before God and His Son, the Lord Jesus Christ, and then ask for the help of their Spirit to help me crucify my sinfulness and live a life a little bit more wholesome and healthy towards others. And when you come to this place, then you start to see that there are people that are not in that space. And the next thing you realize, you're not wrestling with the person that's there. You're wrestling with the spirit that's working within them, the way in which they think and the position that they're at in life. A lot of people, these people think they know everything, but they've got no clue of themselves. And then we're living in a situation where we have all the necessary ingredients and financial position and all the rest of it, but it just isn't going to work because our sinful natures haven't been dealt with. We haven't awoken to these powers that are working against us from within. Paul said in Galatians chapter 2 verse 20 that he awoke, he was crucified with Christ, that it was no longer he who lived, but Christ that lived within him. He lived a life that was led by the Spirit, walked by the Spirit, and you will not fulfill the lust of the flesh. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty and freedom. That gives your mind the space it needs to be able to recalibrate, reconstitute, revigorate, and reassemble itself in the form and fashion that it should be. But if you find a partner that is not in that headspace, and they've got sinful tendencies, or what they say today, narcissistic personality traits or disorders, it's just sinfulness, viewers. It's why they always end up saying it's evil, because it's sinfulness. You can be in order, you can be managing yourself quite well, you can be going along quite well against what your sinful nature does to you, not bringing harm to yourself or anybody else, and meet somebody that's not in that state, you will not have the pay grade to manage that person. They will bring you down. Slowly but surely, they will bring you down. And you have to realize that we are not the ones that can help people change. They have to come to that place themselves, the place where our old man, our sinful nature, our narcissistic tendencies and other personality disorders were crucified with him. Where we can come to that place where we say, it is no longer I who live, but Christ or goodness or whatever you want to say lives within me. And the life which I now live, I live by faith in the Son of God, in loving my neighbor as myself, looking after myself, who loved me and gave himself for me.